guys, M-Tech Guy here, and today it looks like it's just started raining, which is great. Finally get some time to work on the M5 and got some lovely weather for the job today. Alright, so today we're going to be taking a look at a few little bits and pieces on the E60 M5, namely some missing screws, bolts, clips, this type of thing, you know. Now when you buy an older car, it's not unusual to find a few little clips and screws missing here and there, like broken plastic clips, undertray screws, and you might find in the likes of your engine bay there might be a few bolts or screws missing, signs of where previous mechanics have been and maybe used an incorrect bolt, not a factory one, just because they've lost the original one and they've just replaced it with what they've got on hand on the day. Alright, I've been to my local BMW dealer. I've got a few screws and bolts and little bits and pieces just to get things tidied up, so it's just going to be a nice little job to take care of on the car today. We'll replace anything that's missing and we'll also replace anything that's incorrect, and we'll get everything all proper right the way through the car. And something else I need to take a look at while I'm busy out here today, I'm also due a brake fluid service, so might get that taken care of today too. We'll see how we go. So here we have a few screws and clips and bits and pieces, all genuine BMW parts. I had to put myself a little list here together. That's from when I ordered the parts, just to remember which one goes where. Right, let's get these fitted to the car. So I think we'll start with the fixing for the right hand gearbox here. You can see this is flapping around in the wind like that. Do a few bits and pieces here. So the rubber mount for this one has actually broken. Let's get that replaced today. Other than this one being broken, most of the bits and pieces I'm replacing today in the engine bay here are missing screws or nuts, and then I've got two Torx screws on the pollen filter housings there, which have never been, well, one of them's right since I bought the car and the other one's a different size, and I've never known which one was the correct size, which one was the factory one, so I've just bought two new factory ones. We'll get them replaced. If you've seen some of my previous videos, well, a lot of the engine bay work, you have to remove the pollen filter housings there. I've always said this is this Torx size, this is the other Torx size. Might have been changed over at some point. So we'll get that sorted today. So I'll remove this 10mm that is actually present over the back here. I get to use my fancy new 1/4" ratchet today. Check this out. Just wind the handle. She'll ratchet and go the other way with it too. I'm pretty stoked with this little purchase. Only picked this up a couple of weeks ago. First time I got to use it. It's nice for these little tight spaces in the engine bay. Check it out. And of course you can use it as a normal ratchet as well. Awesome little bit of kit, I'm quite happy with that. Try not to lose any of these metal clips in the process as we drag this out. So that's how this video kind of started in the first place, dropping fasteners down into the engine bay and have to spend ages fishing them out or jacking the front end of the car up, remove the under tray and then go fishing from the underneath trying to find these dropped screws and nuts and bolts. I actually put a YouTube Shorts video out just the other day where I managed to capture myself dropping a bolt. I was working on the E87, the little 130i, and all the frustration and swearing that came about because of it. It's funny, you look at it, watching it back afterwards, and it's quite funny, but when you're in the middle of it, it's so frustrating because you know you're just up against at least another half an hour or so trying to fish it out, or like I say, jacking the front end of the car up, remove the under tray, and then you still got to find the thing. Sometimes it's stuck in a heat shield or on the frame rail or something stupid like that. So just a little incident. Yeah, it's usually when you're just about finishing the job as well. And just a little incident where you drop something like that turns into a massive mission. It's so frustrating And because of the swearing in that shorts video, YouTube said, nah, we're going to demonetize you for that one. So thank you, YouTube, for that one. Didn't meet the bad language guidance. So apparently, if it was a music video, I might have gotten away with it. I might have still got monetized, because apparently swearing in a music video is acceptable, like rap music, whatever. So maybe next time I drop a fastener, I ought to rap my frustrations, and then YouTube might actually pay me some money to put back into the channel. Whatever. That's not a welded nut under there, it's a proper nut, so let's give another spell at it. It's the only thing with these rubber mounts with the hex on either end. The rubber starts to deteriorate over the years, and then you go to nip it up one day and the thing just shears apart. So that's what's left of that one. That's what it should look like. Nip it up, and we'll see how long this one lasts. Maybe I'll be back in a few years' time pulling in the second half of this job out and replacing it. Right, so we'll now see if we can fish this part out, or what's left of it. The other half. Before we slide this in position, put this small collar. I've just pulled off the old one, we'll put it on the new rubber mount. Surprised how dirty the air filter's looking. It's not that old, and it hasn't seen that many kilometres. Love this ratchet. I wish it's a tight fit, boys. There we go. Airbox resecured. Right, so moving on to the left-hand box, we've got this nut missing down the back here, but not only that, it does have a little aluminium sleeve in the rubber mount where it just mounts to the edge of the expansion tank there as we stood. Fortunately, last time I performed an oil change, look what dropped out from underneath. So I can reposition that gingerly so I don't drop it back down again. So much stuff in the way here. It's going to be tricky. So prod that into position. think what we'll do is use the long reach pliers for this one, so I don't want any funny business. Thank you very much. Nip her up. And I'll tell you what, I find one of the most frustrating jobs when working on the E60 M5 is this left-hand airbox. I hate having to put it back into position. Something that should be so straightforward can be really frustrating, especially this clip over the back there. I do find it difficult to get my fingers in there and clip it on and get it all pushed down tight enough to get it in position. And then there's this clip by the filler neck for the washer fluid there that always just seems to want to fall off and drop down. And so when you're refitting these, you've got to be real mindful of holding that in position and trying to line everything up, get the hose back on, and not much room around here. I guess that's the beauty of them squeezing a big V10 engine into a engine bay this size, which is relatively big, but there's a lot going on with the two airboxes and that. So, but yeah, super frustrating. Now looks like that rubber mount's starting to split down there, so I think I'll have to order another one and come back and revisit that one. But anyway, it's all right for now. Now this bolt here, it's a bit of quite a large size Torx bolt with a large head on it. It's quite different to all the other fixings. I didn't think it was a factory one, but it turns out that it is, so we'll leave that one be for now. I've got one up my sleeve for a rainy day. It's a left-hand airbox secure. Okay, so next up we'll move on to the Torx screws that hold the pollen filter trays in position. So one of these is right and one of them's wrong. We'll find out which one's which. So that's our new one. You see that takes a T25. That one's also T25, so that one's right. So this one must be a Torx screw that's a T27. This is one that someone had spare kicking around the workshop in the toolbox. Someone who's previously worked on the vehicle and lost the original one. It's not correct. We must change it. We need everything factory and uniform. So if nothing else, this will be nice. I now know they're both T25. I just need one Torx bit to get the whole thing off. Easy. Now then, with the under bonnet activities now complete, we can move on to the rear bumper here. Now this is one of them plastic clips, normally got a plastic flange on the end of it, but when I've gone to remove this previously, of course it's just snapped off. So I've got new ones today. Now, I was clever when I was installing this. Obviously I didn't have any more of these, but I needed to get my bumper back in position. So I just pushed these in partially enough to hold it, but if there's enough sticking out there that I can grab hold of it and get this thing pulled out. Remember back in the day when things were screwed together. There we go. Now we've got all this fragile plastic doing the job for us. There we go. And the other side of the bumper, I think we'll do the same because this one is not far away from destroying itself. Exactly. If we take a look behind here, I also experienced the same problem there. You can see that one's got the missing head on the clip there, so we'll carry out the same exercise with that one. It's a new one in place. If we take a look in the other side, as you can see, there is one in place there, but it's not original, so I think I'll get that replaced for a proper one. There we go. And the next one that's missing is under the left side skirt to the back here. Just a small plastic retainer, so I'll get that one re-secured. Okay, so next up I've got a heap of missing undertray screws that we need to take care of. So what I'm going to do is get the car up on 4 axle stands, so I've got decent access to scurry underneath the car and get that taken care of. Now I am due a brake fluid change right now, so what I might do, I might kill 2 birds with 1 stone. While it's all up on 4 axle stands, I'll whip all 4 wheels off and we'll get the brake fluid change taken care of before we get stuck into that undertray job. I've got a bit of sunshine. Rain stopped for now. Getting access to the reservoir. I suppose we'll take this torque screw out again. We're using the genuine BMW .4 low viscosity brake fluid today. I picked up 2 of these 500ml containers from the dealer. It's enough to get the job done. Yuck. Now if we take a look under here at the end of this suspension arm, the ball joint, and the ball joint boot is all split, and we're spewing a bit of grease Now the rear suspension's solid. I don't really want to have to replace that whole arm just for the sake of that boot being split and losing a bit of grease. To be honest with you, I don't really want to just replace one arm on this car. I'd rather do them as a pair. If I was going to do them as a pair, then I want to do all 4 upper arms. And you can see what's happening here. The job's just growing and growing. I do plan to refresh all of the suspension at some point in the future, but at this stage it is all pretty solid. It's not really at the stage where I need to go through and do the whole lot. Will be good for a refresh at a later date, but not today. So I think what we'll do is just try and gauge a rough size for that boot, and you can buy generic ones the same sort of shape and size. And then what I'll do is I'll pop the ball joint off the hub carrier there, and you can just replace the boot itself. There's just a couple of steel clips holding it in place, so I think we'll just replace the boot for now. Check it with the vernier. Right, so what I'll do now, I think I'll nip out and see if I can get one from a local supplier that's near enough the right size. They do have a bit of give in them, so it doesn't have to be majorly accurate. It'll be enough just to save that ball joint from deteriorating in the future. Alright guys, I'm back now. A bit of a change of plan. I couldn't get hold of a rubber boot that was going to be the correct size for that ball joint on the end of the suspension arm, so I ended up picking up a brand new arm. I managed to get a Lemforder one pretty cheap, so it's a good OEM replacement. So for the time being, I think it's just going to be easier to chuck the new arm in, and then whenever the time comes in the future, I'll go through and replace all the arms and the bushes and whatnot. Now this box looks like it's been to hell and back. Let's take a look at the arm. There we go. Now the genuine BMW ones and the Lemforder ones have the proper sort of rose bush at one end. Now the cheaper ones just have a rubber bush there, so they're not exactly the same. Then we've got the ball joint at the other end. This is going to be a nice replacement for the one that's there at the moment. Now for the E60 M5 and the M6s from the same generation, just be aware that the size of this fitting here did change about 3 times. If you are going to buy one of these arms, just make sure you match the part number against your VIN. I've seen people get caught out with this a few times in the past. And of course, when you remove the old one, just double check that it's like for like before you go fitting the new one. Right, let's get this on the car. And also, when I was bleeding the brakes, I noticed that the brake pad wear sensor on the front right hand side there had come apart. This small end that goes in the brake pad there had broken away, and it's just sort of flapping around, so I picked a new one up. It's a Bauer branded one, OEM, so while the car's up in the air, I'm going to get that replaced today also. If we look down there, you can see that that ball joint's just spewing grease everywhere, making a bit of a mess. It'd be good to get it changed out now before it does start to deteriorate. Right, you can see just how bad this old one was. The boot's completely come apart, spewing grease everywhere, like dirt and debris in there and water. Eventually that would have got a bit loose and baggy, caused a bit of rear end slop with the vehicle. I'm pleased we're getting that changed out today for the shiny new one. Alright, let's get this fitted to the car. Yeah, so even though it cost me a little bit of extra money, I think I'm pleased I just put a new arm in there rather than trying to mess around replacing the rubber ball joint boot on the old one. Much better. Right, I've got a number of screws missing from the undertray here for the SMG. If we just release these two screws here, it's flapping around a bit. Looks like I've got a bit of a leak happening from the SMG. Now, I don't know whether this is just since I changed the oil, which wasn't that long ago, a bit of a splashback. I normally do clean it all down, but it's not obvious to see where it's coming from. Whether it's the hose that's leaking, it might be the hose. There's a bit of fluid on there. I think what I might do is give it a bit of a clean down, and then we'll revisit that one, and that might give us an idea of exactly what's letting go. I'm wondering if it's this hose here. Yeah, it does look like it. Look at that. Let's give this a clean. Right, so that's all cleaned up now, so we'll keep an eye on that. We'll revisit it and we'll see if it's obvious where the leak's actually coming from. I'm assuming it might be one of them cooling hoses, oil cooler hoses, but I want to just start throwing parts at it at this stage, so it's not a bad leak, just a wee weep. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Right, let's get some screws in this thing. You want to be careful that you don't lose these under trays, because it's quite imperative to the cooling of the SMG gearbox. Funnels air up through there and then up into the cooler. Right, let's see where we're missing a few screws now. Yeah. Now you can see where the fiberglass tray here is torn a wee bit. Now my original plan with this, it's been like this ever since I bought the car, and obviously it won't keep the screws won't keep it held because there's a bit missing. My original plan was to refiberglass this up and re-drill it. I never got round to it. Two reasons really, because number one, I hate working with fiberglass, and number two, this is like a glass reinforced plastic type of thing, so I'm not sure how well the new fiberglass will take to it, even the epoxy. I'm not sure it'll key into it properly. I think it'll just end up breaking away, so rather than having to spend heaps of money on a new under tray just for the sake of a couple of bits like that, I think what we'll do is just position a washer underneath the screw. But now we have some proper factory screws, they do have this washer underneath them, so I think that's going to work out a lot better. It should hold it moving forward. You can see how this has been sagging down, and that will be flapping around like that as I'm driving, so it'll be good to get this re-secured today. Better. I'm going to do the other side now. Now some of these were missing when I bought the car, and some were not factory screws, just odd sizes, and they've obviously just broken loose over the years. So it'd be nice to get this all back to how it should be. You can see here we've got one hanging out of there. It's not a factory screw, so we'll put a proper one in there, re-secure it. A couple more missing over here. Tighten that one up while we're at it. And a couple more over here. Right, so that's the under tray. Not going anywhere now. Nice and secure. Alright, so if we take a look here, we've got the brake pad sensor, and that's not actually clipped in, it's just flapping around, which I noticed when I was bleeding the brakes just now. So we get this out of here, take a closer look, you can see it should have a portion of the plastic retainer on that side where it clips in, but that's just broken away there. I guess it's just got hard and brittle over the years and come apart, so that's no good, it just being loose and flapping around. So we'll chuck a new one in there while we're busy tidying up a few bits and pieces today. So we compare the old and the new one there. You can see that this one's almost got a plastic groove where it grabs onto the pad either side, the backing plate of the pad, whereas this one, half the groove's missing there, that plastic piece. I think what I'll do next, before I refit the wheels, I'll just clean up these edges here because they're getting a bit of corrosion on there. So I'll go around it with my buffer. I'll just get rid of that, and then I'll put a little bit of copper grease on there just to save it for next time. It's looking a bit better. I'll repeat the process on the other 3 hubs. Right, now all 4 hubs are cleaned up, we'll just apply a thin layer of anti-seize, and that'll give us a chance to get the wheels off nice and easy without having a fight with it at a later date. Don't need to get this on the face of the nose of the rotors there, just on the lip of the hub. That's all you need. I'll get the other 3 hubs done now. I'll get all 4 wheels back on, drop it back down on its wheels, torque everything up. Alright guys, so there we have it. That's all them little bits and pieces taken care of while the weather's looking a bit dodgy. So good job to get done on a day like today. Now it is worth keeping on top of these little bits and pieces as time goes on, because if you don't, what will happen over time is things will accumulate, they'll compound, and before you know it, you'll have that many broken clips, missing screws, undertrays hanging off, this, that and the other thing. You'll have a huge job on your hand going through and straightening it all out, and things are just going to get worse in the long term. So as unimportant and insignificant as these little jobs seem, it is worth keeping on top of them because they are important. Now if you found the video interesting, don't forget to give it a like, and make sure you go and check out the rest of my YouTube channel for more BMW E60 M5 content. Consider subscribing if that's your cup of tea. I'm MTech Guy. Thanks a lot for watching.